Hi all and welcome to another evening with Thomas, and tonight's guest is Stephen George from OYM, and it should be an interesting show. Hi all and welcome to an evening with Thomas, and this is the second week running where we had the lads from OYM on, and last week we had Alan James, and it was a good chat. And I've no doubt it'll be no different this week with Stephen George. Stephen and Alan share the platform of OYM, which some of our members really enjoy. In fact, we've got shared listeners in many aspects between the two groups, which is good. And so we're going to bring Stephen on this week, and Stephen's going to tell some of his story, and I'll introduce him now. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Thomas. Thanks for that lovely introduction, and I have to say, just off the bat, yes, there is a lot of great listeners out there who listen to OAM Radio and also Truth, Honour and Integrity, and thanks to you coming on our show every so often and sharing a lot of great information with our listeners, I think there has been a little bit of an overlap whereby some of our listeners are now tuning into Truth, Honour and Integrity, and vice versa. So yeah, it's all about sharing information, I suppose, really, and just educating people, and, waking them up, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's the way it should be, shouldn't it? You've seen it too many where people are competing that, our show's better than your show and all that nonsense, and it's playing the same divide and conquer game again. I promote your show, I promote Randy, I promote Shane and a few others. I don't see them as threats, and I don't think knowing you two lads, you're exactly the same, because we're all in the same boat at the end of the day. We all have the same goal, and it's not important to me, and thanks to you lads, you had me on, and it kind of grew from there, didn't it?
It did, look, at the end of the day, it's all about information and the sharing of information, and you're absolutely 100%. You've been on our, if you want to call it a platform, you've been on our platform many times, and you have information that you're privy to, and you do your own show, but you come onto our show and you give the information, you give of yourself, you give your time, your energy, and it's just a sharing of knowledge. And I suppose the end goal really is for the listener, just to educate the listener, give them something, plant a seed so that they can have something, in their file in their brain, and they can make of it what they will. But it's information and it's knowledge. No one's show is better than anyone else's show. Your show may be more highly polished than ours, or vice versa. It really doesn't matter. No. It's just the sharing of knowledge and information. Really, that's the crux of it, really, as far as I'm concerned. And I know Alan feels the same.
Yeah, and it's important for the long-term goals. That we all come together. Yes, we all may have different pieces of information, and people are different in their information to me, and I know you lads do the same. You'll look into it, and sadly there's some aspects of it that can't be proven, which is kind of why I went away from the ET side, even though that's important to me, because it's not easy to validate any of that stuff, to be quite honest.
It's not easy. And look, you can talk about ETs, we can talk about ET, and we know that even when we're speaking about it and we're telling our audience, or we may have a guest on who says they've had certain experiences, we know it's not going to resonate with everybody, and that's why we generally would say, it may not resonate with you now, but don't dismiss it. It's just information. Don't dismiss it. Put it on the shelf. Maybe look at it in 6 months, a year. Revisit it, but don't dismiss it, because too often, and I'm sure you'll agree, too often people are given a piece of information, and because it doesn't it doesn't bode well with their so-called belief system. That's BS. It's BS, and it's dismissed, and they won't entertain it again. And that's it. I think all we're saying is, even as regards to ET, I've never seen an ET. I've seen the movie E.T., but I mean, I've never seen a real life bona fide E.T., be it a grey or whatever. I've never seen one, but my logical mind tells me that I don't know everything, and they may exist, and at some point I may come across one. I don't know, but it would be very, very naive of me to say, and ignorant to say, nah, ETs don't exist, because I don't know. I only know what I know. Yeah. I think it was George Bush, a famous saying from him, the things that we know, and the things that we know, we don't know. Well, ETs is one of the things that I don't know.
Yeah. It's, but that plays into something you guys did in a fairly major conference recently about the fluid belief system and how people get stuck in that. In their own belief system, be it religion, or whether they believe ETs exist or not, or whether they believe the Cabal exists, or the Illuminati, or any one of the other rabbit holes that you go down. If you're stuck in that.
As regards belief systems, a lot of people, and this is just my own personal thoughts on this, I've been with Alan on platforms, on podiums, and we've talked about the belief system and the fluid belief system, which is kind of, I'm not saying, and Alan will say it as well, we didn't coin the phrase fluid belief system, but it kind of fits in, it dovetails into everything that, we kind of believe or perceive to be true. And basically it's just a way, I suppose, a way of living your life whereby you don't believe everything, you don't take everything at face value, that you will question a lot of stuff, and stuff that you question that doesn't make sense, you don't just dismiss it because it doesn't make sense now. And sometimes someone will come to you with information and say the world is flat or the world is round, or there's a cabal, a small bunch of people who actually run the whole show. And I think we've all had experiences whereby we've had some information, have shared it with other people, and those other people have dismissed it. But through the kind of the fluid belief system, for want of a better word, it's just kind of tailors it so people can realise this is exactly what's happening, kind of from a psychological point of view. This is why people will not believe you, because of cognitive dissonance. And these are kind of steps that you can do instead of just going to people. This is a big mistake I made when I started having my wake up. I started going to friends and family members, and I think everyone goes through the same thing. Yeah. And you just run to them and go, "You're not going to believe this, but blah 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 blah." And they look at you and kind of go, "Oh, it's finally happened. He's gone off the deep end." Yeah. And now it's a case of I just kind of find out what resonates with people, what difficulties they're having. People who are over this side of the pond will know that water meters and the whole banking fiasco with evictions, forced evictions. No, it's things like that, the ground roots kind of stuff that I will talk to people about, and I go, how does that affect you? How do you feel about that? And people will give me some feedback, and based on their feedback, is when I will kind of go, okay, what do you think we can do about that? Do you think anything can be done about it? Why do you think it's happening? Who's going to benefit from that? Just to get people's grey matter, just to get it working and see where they're coming from, type of thing.
So OYM has been going about 7 years now.
So they say.
Yes.
Well, that's 7 of your Earth years, Thomas.
And there's no such thing as time.
I know, it's been going 7.5 years, and I know Alan touched base last week on how we actually got together, and how we actually hooked up and realised that we had kind of a lot of the same issues and feelings and thoughts about certain things that were going on in the world. So I won't go over old ground there. But
what I'd like you to do is make it personal rather than combined OIM. Is what aspect of the field started you off down the rabbit hole? And because there's so many things, it could be foreclosure, it could be ET, searching for ET stuff, or searching for Cabal or Illuminati. So what started you off on the rabbit hole, and why?
What started me off and why? Well, it kind of went back to 9/11. That was a tipping point for me. I was in work. I used to work in Dublin at the time. I worked in the health service. I worked in a hospital. And it was care of the elderly. And I was finished work at 2:00 one day. My wife, she was at home. We had a new baby. And people were gathered around one of the TV sets. And I asked, what's going on? Thought there was something, of interest on. And there was the news coverage of 9/11. So, of course, I stood around the TV set as well. And at the time, this was kind of it had just kind of really happened. So people didn't know what was happening. It was unsure, and they were saying it was a small light aircraft, and the pilot had been blown off course, or something happened, and he ended up hitting the building. And that's kind of where I left. I was finished work then. I went home. By the time I went home, it took me about an hour to get home. My wife was there. She had Sky News on at home. And then she was saying, they're talking about terrorist attack. And I was going, what do you mean a terrorist attack? It was a pilot. He blew off course. And she said, no, they're now saying it's terrorism. That it was done deliberate. And it wasn't a light aircraft. It was a big aircraft. And I couldn't get my head around this. So I watched Sky News. I now realise I wasn't watching Sky News, I was being programmed by Sky News, because everything that they had put out in relation to 9/11, just the early stages, the first couple of hours, I listened to that and I took it on board as being gospel truth, verbatim. Whatever they said, that's exactly how it happened, and that's what happened. And over the following days, it was a very hot potato. And it was all people were talking about. So you couldn't get away from it. And I remember one night, and there was one night in particular, I was on the internet, and I don't know how, but I ended up in one of these, I don't know if they still have them now, chat room. And there was people discussing what had gone on. It was, as I say, everyone was talking about it. Yeah. So I went onto the chat room, logged in, and I had my say. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was kind of, I was a repeater for Sky News. That's everyone who was on there seemed to be a repeater. Everyone was kind of saying the same things, but just saying it from a different angle or adding their own thoughts onto it. But we were all saying the same. We were all kind of preaching what Sky News was telling us to preach.
Script, printer.
Script. That's exactly what it was, Thomas. Yeah. And one guy, the guy, I don't know who. Well, actually, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, but they kind of just come back to me and says, "Well, hold on a second. What you were saying is what everyone else is saying, and it's what's being spewed out in mainstream media. Have you ever considered that maybe the government done it?" And I remember typing back to this person, and I went, "Don't be so ridiculous. The government would never do anything like that." And at that moment, when I typed the message and I hit send, I pressed enter on the keyboard, it's like a beacon went off. And I thought,
the send.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, what if this guy is right? What if the government have something to do with that? And I said, no, geez, that's too big to think of. That's really opens up a whole different ball game. So I said, no, they couldn't. And I remember some other things were passed, between us on the chat room, and then I logged off. I can't even remember. But for the next couple of days, it's all I could think about was, what if? What if the government had some hand, act, or part? And it was just based on that I found myself after being hit over the head with a frying pan, I was walking aimlessly, and I just didn't know. Nothing kind of made sense because of this one comment that someone had put to me in a chat room. So
that's all it takes sometimes.
That was it. And based on that, I start typing things into search engines. I don't think we had Google at the time. It would have been one of the other search engines. AOL or Alta Vista or whatever it was, yeah. And there was very little information around, so I wasn't really getting much back. But the fact that the seed had been planted, it stayed there. And over the next couple of years, it obviously grew. And I started kind of asking more questions and questioning things. And then there was more coming out about 9/11 and victim support groups. And I started kind of taking an interest in that and what they were saying. And it kind of snowballed from there. And as they say, Thomas, when the student is ready, the master will appear, or the teacher, whatever. Yeah. And that's when it was around that time when me and Alan, we bumped into each other in cyberspace, and emails went back and forward. And as Alan told you, eventually I found out he was living quite close to me when he had moved back to Ireland from London. So we decided, well, hey, you're only 10 k's down the road, so why don't we just meet up? So we did. And we talked and talked and talked, and we just realised, that there's so much that we don't know. And Alan was further down the road than I was. So he was able to kind of give me some information, and he was very instrumental in, how would you say, very instrumental in helping me to grow and this, not just accept things, but consider different things. Yeah. And that kind of went a long way with me, because he wasn't forcing me. He wasn't, he was just open. He was just a regular guy, and we just had a lot of nice long chats. And I found that the more we chatted, the more we had in common, and the more wrong we actually seen with the world.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my introduction.
Yeah, everyone has a certain line in the sand moment.
Yeah.
And the reality is, you exited one world and entered another on that one day, and that one comment.
Yeah.
Not necessarily physically, but metaphorically, you did. And there's always some entry point. I've said on previous shows, my entry point was finding out more about the ETs, why I had this knowledge, where did it come from, and who am I, and why does nothing make sense in this world? Why is everything backwards and upside down? And the internet was a boon for us all, because without the internet you would never have met Alan.
True.
And so suddenly there's a lot of very frightened people. And we all were frightened, because we were outside the comfort zone of having thoughts that don't fit in with the rest of society. And suddenly we found, what, we're not nuts. There's loads of nuts everywhere. All realise something's radically not right here. And then, you have to overcome certain hurdles. You mentioned the big hurdle, that the government's not working for you. That's a big step that people have to take. It seems small now, but back then, it was rather much more difficult in 2001 than it was in 2011, when more and more people are waking up. And now in 2017, we've got a vast army of people.
Oh, we do. We do. And a lot of people who were involved in the waking up process, or the truth movement, as a lot of people call it, or as other people call it, the fake news people, the fake news brigade. We are beginning to multiply at a rapid rate, and I do believe that a lot of people in the elite circles, the Cabal type people, I firmly believe that they are. No, I don't think we were a threat to them at any point before, but I think now, as time is moving on and more people are beginning to wake up, having a wake up experience, I believe we're becoming more of a threat to them. And I think that's why they are doing what they need to do in order to keep us asleep, or the people who may wake up, try and, get them, either keep them asleep or try and get them back to sleep. And I think that's why there's so much, and I have to use the word crap, on TV screens at the moment. I mean, I grew up probably the same as you, Thomas. I grew up in a time where there was less than 10 TV channels, probably less than 5, and that's what you had.
3.
It's free. Yeah. But that was entertainment, you know. So, I mean, you watched what you watched, and then you played outside with your mates or your friends, you know. But now, when you look at it now, and it frightens me, because I used to subscribe to Sky TV. I don't know what the
it's Fox,
the American
and
version.
cable.
Fox.
Yeah. Fox is Sky.
Fox.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll just say Fox, so your audience will know where we come from. Yeah. But I used to subscribe to that, and I used to find that there was always something on. There was something on 24 hours a day, and I found that my eldest, who would have been probably about maybe 10 or 11 at the time, was watching way too many Disney productions, and like it was really ridiculous, because not only was she watching all this Disney, but she was taking on the personas, if you like, of some of the characters. And I started watching some of these TV shows just to see what the hell was going on. Yeah. And I realised that a lot of the Disney stuff, the adults were idiots in it, and if it wasn't for the kids, you know, the adults wouldn't be able to function. It was like the whole ethos of the show was basically teaching the kids, adults are dumb and stupid. You know best. That's why you're watching Disney. You know, and
it's a bit like the Waldorf schools. I've mentioned in recent shows. They're teaching the children to discount their parents and inform on them, and the new parent is the teacher.
Yeah,
it's something. You know,
when I seen that happening, I made a conscious decision. I discussed it with my wife, and we got rid of some of those channels. Yeah. So in the end, we got rid of Sky TV altogether, and I found my children were better off for it. They definitely were. And,
because they can go back, and the children have to go back to doing what we did as kids. It was use our imagination. You know, some of the games that the kids used to make up and play actors' roles, and you know, there'd be doctors and nurses and all kinds of other cowboys and Indians is the favourite. It's playing, using your imagination and getting a stick and making it into a gun. You know, kids will look at that now and go, you know, I've got this AK-47 replica. Please put that down. You know, because you're going to get shot by a cop. Yeah. So that's the size you know.
I bet you remember this as well, where there was always a big bunch of children on your street, or you know, on your road. And they all played out. And I know some of the games. I can vaguely remember some of the games. I think one of them was Bulldog. I think that was one of the games where all the kids linked arms, and I could be getting it wrong now, but they all linked arms, and one person had to try and get through them and all that. But it was all good, clean fun. It was outdoors. You were getting fresh air, and they weren't getting the mind warped by TV. They were making up their own games.
We were getting stuck in the mud. And absorbing microbes and not being disinfected like we are now, where we don't deal with microbes.
That's it.
You know,
the baby wipe generation.
Yeah, it's how things, even in 1 or 2 generations, how quickly it's changed and how quickly you've come. And this is why I keep warning about technology and stuff, because most technology, apart from the internet, which was a control system to begin with, but it went the wrong way for them. And what you said before about us potentially being a threat, I think you're underestimating that drastically.
I know.
I think we're a lot further down the road than perhaps some realise. Yes, we have the thing that people don't like behind the scenes. But the reality is, if it played out in front of the public, you've got a lot of people, particularly in America, where they've been bombarded with the fear program. They couldn't handle what's going on. The average people, I'm not talking about the ones listening to this show. Oh boy, we're a threat to them. And not only are we a threat, we're increasingly by the hour a threat to their existence.
Yeah. The only thing that concerns me, Thomas, is, and this does cross my mind several times. I'm not going to say several times a day, but definitely several times during the week. And sometimes it happens after we may have had a very, very outspoken, controversial guest on our own show. Maybe a whistleblower. And I often wonder if just Alan and I are having an impact on what's going on our small island of Ireland. How much of an impact are we really having? Could I potentially wake up one day, or Alan, or both of us, wake up one day and someone kick in the door and drag us off somewhere? There's that kind of thing as well, because we do hear from time to time that people in the troop movement, for want of a better word, have been taken out. And I mean, that's a bloody big concern too, especially if you have family, like maybe wife, young children.
I understand that, and I've had death threats, perhaps a few more than people realise. But
were these genuine kind of threats?
Oh yeah. Big names.
It wasn't just the local head down the chippy saying I'll kill you.
No. Oh no, certain agencies and certain other entities, shall we say. But then you can't be, it's naive to think that you are going to put yourself forward where you, even if you only bring 100 people and have 100 people listening, or you have 1,000 people listening, or 10,000 people listening, and you're promoting an anti-corrupt system, that you're not going to get threats. Because we're taking down a thousands of year old system that they don't want to end. They have other plans for us, and their plans are all going to pot. And so we were bound to get a reaction, and part of the problem we've had in the alternative media is there's been all these promises, and so people think it's gone on far longer than it should. Well, those people don't understand the depth of how this goes. The sheer depth of it is mind-boggling. It would take you multiple lifetimes to find out what's really going on, everything on here. And the fact that we in the alternative community have managed to basically bring it to its knees in under a decade is nothing short of extraordinary. And you can't ignore the threats, but you can't be that naive to think I'm going to call out the government and call out the agencies and call out the military like I do, and not expect kickbacks.
Yeah.
But we the main goal is the truth has to come out, and somebody has to do it. Too often society passes personal responsibility on somebody else will fix it. Drake will fix it, or I'll fix it, or Neil Keenan fixes it, or Wilcock fixes it, just to name a few of the names that were out there. No, we all have to fix it. That kind of
that's it, yeah.
Leads me into the next. Did you realise how far OYM would go, and have you realised how far you've come also?
Well, I'm going to answer the second part first, and the first part last. Did I realise how far we've come? Yes. I do realise how far we've come, based on the amount of emails that we've had from people who say that they've listened, who say that we've actually made a difference. And I know we all kind of say from time to time, if there's only one, if I change one person, if I make one difference, then it's been worth it. And we've been told many times via emails and telephone calls that we have made a difference. Now I'm not going to name names, but one lad did contact us. We subsequently met him. He brought us to his home. He cooked us dinner. And that was just his way of saying thank you. And we didn't realise how much of an impact we were having until he said, and his wife told us a couple of years later, that he was in a very bad place. He was being chased by banks, and he was just in a very bad place. He was very down, and he was considering that the only way to get rid of this anguish, this mental anguish that was torturing him, was at the end of a rope. And he just happened one evening to stumble across a show that we happened to be doing. When I say stumble across, I mean, it's not coincidence. It's obviously it was going to happen. Yeah. The same, I mean, if I hadn't have been on the internet and, you know, maybe I wouldn't have hooked up with Alan, it was probably going to happen. It would have happened eventually. But this chap said to us, he could see no way out other than the end of a rope. He stumbled across our a show that we happened to have on, and the person who we had on that evening wasn't giving financial advice, but was just talking about ways of dealing with the banks, you know, so you could actually engage with them and realise that it is a game. Okay, the odds are kind of stacked in their favour at the moment, but hey, it's a game that if you learn the rules, that you can play it as well. So he took on board what was said, and he started having his own adventure, if you want to call it an adventure. He started living his own life, and rather than being pursued by the banks, he was now pursuing the banks. And it has worked out for him. To be fair, like there's still kind of issues, unresolved issues, but he's in a much better place today. So I mean, we do realise that we've had an impact. And I say that's just one story. I mean, there's many other stories of people who said that they happened to just come on at the right time, listened, and heard something that, you know, was a kind of a game changer. But when we started, did I realise personally how many rabbit holes that there were? No, I didn't. I hadn't a clue. It was, you know, I'll be honest, and probably the same for a lot of people, Thomas. It was like, I'm going down this road. Okay, I'm not going down that road. I'm going down this road, and there's probably going to be another couple of roads off it and a couple of avenues. But Jesus, I didn't expect it to be landed in the middle of like a small city with roads and you know, going everywhere. It's mind-boggling. It really is, to think that there's so much crap and so much corruption going on. It's really hard to understand. And after 7.5 years, I don't believe I have even seen the tip of that iceberg. I'm pretty sure it goes a hell of a lot deeper than even I imagine.
Yeah, it does. You know, I kind of realised after the Awaken Aware in 2011 that I needed to do something, because I had a lot of knowledge. My own and all of the speakers. It was like the who's who at that particular Awaken Aware. If you're talking about alternative media conferences, the guest list on that was the who's who. You know, and I had all their information because I read everything, 6-7 hours a night, maybe 10 of a weekend for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and then I realised, you know what, I could actually go up on that stage and do my own speech, but I don't speak too well. And the old self-doubts come in, and you're quiet. And I've got an accent, and I'm from a foreign country, and all that. Those doubts come in, but and then suddenly Drake appeared, and that led from one thing to the other, and then here we are now. You know. It was I'll always be grateful for Drake for he gave me the platform to perform, and it went well, and it was sad the way it ended, but in essence, no, it wasn't, because then what I've always tended to do is when I've been something or someone has decided to try and kick me to the ground, I've got up and come back stronger. We launched THI, you know, and it's how you react to things. You can go under, like that guy did. You've just been explaining. You can go under with the banks, or you can go over. And that's the ultimate that all of us have to take on, no matter what level you're dealing with, is overcoming the perceived boundaries because that's all they are.
Perceived. That's it.
Yeah.
It's perceived. And, you know, as you say, we get knocked down. And it's like that song says, I can't remember who sang it, but we get knocked down and we get up again. You know, and I think if we stay down, okay, we lose, game over. But every time we get back up again, I think we get back up and we're a little bit wiser and a little bit stronger.
So how have you dealt with, because obviously you've spoken to many people about this, and you've had the eye rolling and being labelled nuts and all kinds of others. How has that developed you, and how did you deal with that? Because that may be relevant to people who are listening now. Yeah,
yes, I have. I've seen the eye rolling. I have been labelled the conspiracy theory. One of the ladies in work just, because stuff that I would say, she does call me the conspiracy theory and the conspiracy theorist. Sorry, and initially, when this kind of happened, and I had this information that I wanted to share with everybody, the first people I shared it with were the closest people around me, and they were family. And when I shared it with family, and I was met with that wall that nobody wants to be really met with, you think, well, my family are going to support me, you know, no matter what I say, they know me, they love me as I love them, and, you know, I would like to think if they were saying something off the wall, I would be as equally understanding. But that's not what I got. When I was kind of talking about 9/11 as an example, because that was the hot potato, I was talking about that, and two members of my family thought I had gone off the wall. Excuse me. And they had actually discussed me among themselves and said, you know, what do you think is going on with Stephen? Do you think it might be a midlife crisis or something else? And they kind of they kind of, I can't think of an apt word, but they tolerated what I was saying, but it wasn't, they weren't taking me seriously. It was kind of,
dismissive,
okay.
Yeah,
kind of dismissive. Yeah. It was like, we know you're our brother and we love you, but let's not talk about this. Let's talk about something else. And I found that, you know, there was a lot of subjects that I would bring up and they were getting dismissed and they were getting changed, and all of a sudden I wasn't talking about it anymore. And then I realised after a short period of time that these two members of my family who I would have had fairly, you know, like a lot of families, we wouldn't have been in contact 24 hours a day, but you would have seen them, you know, maybe once, twice a month. And all of a sudden I wasn't really seeing them and wasn't really getting any text messages whereby, you know, I used to have text message back and forward, even if it was something silly or a joke. That wasn't happening, and I questioned it, and I realised fairly sharpish that they thought I was actually going nuts. And they just wanted to keep the distance because they figured, and I was told this later on, they figured, well, he's going through something at the moment. We let him figure it out. When he's ready, he'll come back and he'll be himself. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And basically what I did is I stopped talking about the subjects that I wanted to talk about, and I was happy enough to kind of just talk about the mundane stuff with them. But I found that even I didn't want to see them as often because I felt I wasn't being respected in what I had to say.
Suddenly you're not part of their world.
That's it. And I have to say, that hurt, Thomas. It really did.
Yeah, I do understand that. You know, my family kind of put me in a mental facility. 5 years ago. You know, and like that could have tipped people over the edge, or you stand up and go, you know what, I'm going to come back stronger. And that's in essence the problem, because we're in a box, and then suddenly you've gone into another box. It's like the Russian dolls, but the Russian dolls all go within, and that in essence is a metaphorical way of where people learn to get out, is you go within, and then eventually you find there's a hole in the bottom of the box, and instead of going deeper into the box, you come out of the box inverted, and it goes up, not down. And as you go through each layer of life, people now start to see, you took the right path. It wasn't the easy path for any of us. It's far easier to just play your own little self-importance, selfish bubble. Nothing happens to me, that just happens to everybody else. Well, that's not the way it was going. It's going to happen to all, and you keep ignoring it. Eventually you have a big problem, and this is now where we're at that time where the sleepers have no choice. We can't help them. Yeah. We can only help them when the full onslaught of what's been going on is released, and we're not that far away from that taking place.
Well, that's as I've always said, and I know it's kind of a selfish thing to say, but I really hope I'll be alive long enough to see it through, to see it to fruition. And just if I just want to backtrack ever so slightly, Thomas, just to let people know. Just to let people know, it wasn't all doom and gloom in relation to my family members, because I realised that it wasn't their time, and me planting seeds, it wasn't their time. And subsequently, a couple of years passed, and my sister had an awakening, and she came to me, and she rang me one day, and she said, I need to talk to you. We need to talk. And we talked, and she apologized. She said, I want to, face to face, I want to apologize to you. And I said, for what? And she said, because you opened up to me a couple of years ago, and you said some things, and I thought you'd gone off the rails. I really did. But she said, a couple of years have passed, a lot of water under the bridge, and she said, now I'm starting to see things in my life, and I now know where you were coming from.
Yeah.
You just wanted to help and share the information, and we've had a great relationship ever since. My brother,
well, basically, you became the way shower, and this is the role of the alternative media, not just the show hosts like we are. Yeah. The ones who listen to this, you have to go out into your own community and try and address the issues of the sleepers, because it's going to be fairly ugly. Because the biggest thing they're going to be dealing with is A, they've been fooled for a lot longer than others, and B, the guilt. Like your sister, she elder and up, she dealt with her guilt there and then. Well, there's an awful lot of people carrying a lot of guilt, because an awful lot of us are being classed as being completely off the wall and nutty and need help. When in reality, it was them that needed help.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you, Thomas, if we are the nutty ones, I would rather be inside with all the rest of the nuts than outside with some of the so-called sane people. I can be honest about that anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we will be insane. They are unsane. We are insanity.
Yeah.
They're not. And a lot of it comes down to selfishness, because they can't be bothered caring for others, or they can't face up to reality. And this is a big problem on this planet, is we have to start facing up to reality of what it is and what's gone on. You can't carry on like the ancestors, completely ignoring it and hoping it goes away. It doesn't. And this is part of the problem we've had with the exposures of certain alt media people, is they're promising you others will come in and fix it. They're not. Not this time. We did that 16,500 years ago. It didn't work out too well, did it? This time, we fix ourselves.
But that's what a lot of people they don't want to hear that, though. I mean, you know as well as I do. They want to hear, and we'll just use Thomas Williams as an example. They want to go, well, Thomas will fix that. Thomas has the intel, so we put our trust in Thomas. He'll sort it out for us. And they don't like it when you go, no, hang on a second. I can give you the information, I can show you the way, but I can't walk the path for you. You've got to do it yourself. And a lot of people don't like it, because it takes energy to actually get up off your rear end and do that.
Yeah. I think with regards to our show, I've kind of stair-stepped the information in a way where it's giving people a chance to process it and then move on with it. And it's all about empowerment. I know your show does the same. But there's other certain shows that are all about disempowerment, and the Pleiadians are coming down, and archangels are coming down, and Michael and Saint Germain's coming down to fix it all for you like a magic wand and give you your 10,000 to 25,000 or $6 billion in prosperity packages. Like that's going to change anything. But it's not. Because the change, as you know by now, the change is within.
That's it.
We are the change. All the material stuff is irrelevant. The change and the ascension is within the individual.
Yeah. And that's actually
the collective.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say that's. I know when you asked me like to pick a couple of tracks, and the opening tune, the Robert Palmer, I kind of listen to songs now, and I kind of take something out of them, and that one, Looking for Clues, I think that kind of sums up a lot of people when they're having an awakening, because after they've had their awakening, they're on a search for clues to see what the hell is going on. And even there's another track, Robert Palmer. The name, obviously live radio, the name escapes me at the moment, but where he's actually playing, he's talking about information, and he's talking about fish in the sea, full of mercury, and you only want to start listening to some of his songs. I know the chap's dead now, but some of his songs, like it's kind of like that other lady, Kate Bush. Like there's some songs that you actually listen to, and there's something in it, and it resonates, like just a little piece of information or a lyric or a word or whatever, and you look at it or you listen to it and you kind of think, that's very poignant, and what does that mean? And when this person wrote the song, did they know what was going on? Was he or she trying to tell us something?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah. And this is why I covered this 2 weeks ago when two of the songs were Black Sabbath, devil worshippers and Satanists and all this stuff that they got labelled with. But they're telling you about war pigs, the generals doing their rituals at black masses, which is basically what war is about. It's ritual sacrifice, not for them, but for the ones who hold the puppet strings that most people don't want to look at. And the world, heaven and hell. The world is full of kings and queens who blind your eyes and steal your dreams. It's telling you about the control system. Or the minions, because the royals are minions. They might look important, but in the bigger picture, they're not.
No.
And
again, it's how we perceive them. Their perception.
Yeah. And it's a case of looking. I use songs to say words or have meanings in my show. Sometimes people will go, "Ooh, this kind of sounds interesting," but I played a certain song, and it's the same thing. The Cabal do it in movies to tell you what they're doing, whether it be 9/11 or Terminator robots, which is not the future, it's the past. It's what people want to think.
It's amazing, actually. Sorry, I just want to say real quick, it's amazing when you tell people about the likes of Hollywood. Hollywood is kind of telling you what's going on or what kind of future we may be having, and they're not just making it up, that it is kind of based on facts or intel that they may have, and they want to share it with us, because someone told us before that they have a conscience, if you like, that they need to share with us, because if they share it with us, then they've told us, and if we do nothing about it, then hey, tough luck, you knew.
No, it's not really conscience, it's cheating the cosmic law system. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because we have a so-called free will universe. And so they're expending their free will by telling you, we're going to do this. They have to. Because if they don't, then they've broken the cosmic law. So they skate right on the boundary of it. by distorting it in movies or distorting it in songs, and there's certain Cabal song people who pass songs along in various ways to pass messages to one. There's a lot of it now is faction based, where they're sending songs to different factions, and this is what we're going to do whether you like it or not. So it's not just to the public now, because they're taking each other out, and the movies are wrapped up. One of the biggest, my favourite movie was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And people just think, oh, it's a nice story, but wrapped in Close Encounters is an incident that took place in Wisconsin, an incident that took place in Utah, an incident that took place in Africa. It's all masked in. The sheep incident took place in Salt Lake in 1964, I think. So there's an awful lot of facts thrown into that. And of course the Devil's Tower was used, which ancient history tells you there was craft going to that region a long time ago. Maybe Devil's Tower is not a mountain but an ancient tree.
This is another Black Sabbath track, is it?
No, the Close inside the Close Encounters movie.
Oh, sorry.
They used the Devil's Tower, the mountain, when he did it with the potato shape, the Devil's Tower. Well, the ancients will tell you the ETs used to go there. But when you look at that mountain, it looks more like an ancient tree rather than a mountain. They tell you a bear scratched it. Well, maybe the bear scratched the tree. Big bear for that anyway.
A really big bear, yeah.
So you've got involved in this. So what drives you to be doing what you're doing? How do you see OIM going forward with it?
What drives me? Well, we have every now and again, probably like yourself and everyone else who's involved in this, Thomas, in any way, shape or form. Every now and again, I won't say you, because a lot of people kind of go, you experience this. I'm gonna make it personal. Every now and again, I reach a point where I'm thinking, oh, another show. Who are we talking to this week? Oh, we're talking about this. What's the point? I'll go up and I'll go through the motions and we'll do the introduction, but I just kind of feel sometimes, what is it worth it? Are we making a difference? And at that point in time, sometimes when I have my little lows, like peaks and troughs, and every now and again when I have get down and I'm in the trough, something will happen. It could be anything. It could be somebody will come to me and say, you said something about this. Can you tell me something more about it? I could be in work, and this has happened. This is an actual story. I was in work. I was talking about fluoride. That was it. I was talking about fluoride and the dangers of it to one of the people that I work with, and I was getting the rolling of the eyes and the usual, the usual kind of rigmarole. So that was it, and I kind of went away and I talked more about it, and then I was kind of going, okay, I have to go up and do a show in Allen's, and what are we going to be talking about? Are we really making a difference? Is it all worth it? What the hell? I'm investing a lot of energy and time in this, and is it worth it? And the very next day, one of the lads in work came along to me and he said to me, "Come here, you were saying something there last week about fluoride." And I went, yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Good. And I just thought, well, bugger me, you drop seeds, and nothing happens, and then out of the blue, someone comes along and they take an interest, and that kind of gives me a little more momentum to continue on. The fact that I now know someone has taken an interest and someone actually listened, and maybe, whatever information I gave them, they might do their own research. They might stop using fluoridated water. They might buy a water filter or install a water filter or something. Yeah. And the other story that I gave you earlier about the chap who came along at the right time and he heard their show and he didn't end up at the end of a rope. Little things like that happen. And sometimes it's just something so simple as I could come home after doing a show with Alan And my wife would say to me, like, my wife, she didn't always listen, but she listens now. And most weeks she does try to listen, while she's doing her other, things that wives do. I don't know what they are, but, somehow things get done. Like, I just leave washing in a basket and it miraculously ends up clean in a drawer. I don't know how it gets there. Yeah. But, sometimes I would come home and she'd say, that was a good show and that guest is really interesting. And she would go off and she kind of plants seeds with the people that she knows. She does the same thing, because I live in a small village. And it's a small village full of small-minded people. And every now and again, we'll be talking about something on the show, namely, say, vaccines, as an example. And she used to find that when you're dropping the kids off at school and you're talking to the other mammies at the gate, she used to find that she'd mentioned some of the things that we spoke about, and she was kind of getting the, oh, that's ridiculous, don't be so stupid kind of reaction. But now, because it's all hitting mainstream about vaccinations, she now goes down to the school and she goes, oh, did you hear that on such and such show? What do you think of it? And why do you think they do that? And what do you think is behind it? And,
they're asking questions now.
They're asking questions, exactly. And even the likes of that, when she comes back and says something like that to me, that just inspires me to keep going. And I think I can probably speak for Alan, because I know he has similar experiences to me, where little things happen and it just gives you a little kick up the backside to, continue on, keep on keeping on.
Alan comes on to me.
He does, yeah.
He goes, I don't think we're having an impact. And I go, but you're not seeing it for what it is, because you're in the midst of it. I was talking to what I call the Holland fan club, because we have quite a following from Holland, and we're very grateful for that. And I think that's my next guest, is someone from Holland next week. And I said, this is a giant chess game on different levels, because you look at chess and it's pawns being sacrificed to protect the castle, the kings, the queens, the knights and the rooks and the bishop. The chess game tells you what's going on the different levels of what's called the bigger picture. Now, if you're a pawn standing in the middle of a chess game and you're on the second row, you're not seeing the kings and queens. You only see them when it's too late. When you're when you're getting sacrificed.
Yeah.
But sometimes in a game of chess, the pawns develop and reach the final line and knock the kings and queens over. And basically it's taken place now.
It's kind of funny, because the way you've described that, someone else, I can't remember, it was a long time ago, but someone else just kind of said very, very similar things in relation to chess. They said, do you play? And I said, no, I can play drafts, which is, poor man's chess. And they said, you should learn it, because it's more than a game. And I remember thinking, I thought, no, it's a game. Like, how can it be more than a game? It can't be more than a game. It's a game. And they said, no, it is more than a game, because there's a lot going on in chess. And I never learned, I have to say. In my ignorance, I never learned. But you're the second person now in this lifetime who's actually said those words to me, that there's more going on in chess than there is in life.
Yeah, well, the problem is, if you're a pawn on the second row, how are you seeing the bigger picture? Because you're in the midst of the information. And what I tend to do is step back and overview. If you look at a chess game looking down, you can see all the players and all the moves and where they're going and where they can't go. But if you're on that board, you can't. And this is basically the sleepers, because they can't see the knights and the kings and the bishops roll, because they're in the midst of it. You have to step out of the matrix, out of the box, critical thinking, and overview the board to then see the players and then make the moves. And The reality is, on January the 1st, 2013, humanity got checkmate. And for those of you who know chess, is the opponent who's lost can still continue to make moves, but it's still checkmate. And this is what's playing out on this planet now. They're still making the moves, they're still doing the false flags, and they're still doing this, that and the other, and trying to create World War III, which will never happen, right? No more than the RV and all the other BS that they're coming out with. But ultimately, they know, and more of us now realise, we've already won. It's already checkmate, but we have to make the changes, and the only way we can make the changes, we can't make the changes, carry on thinking the same way. We have to have a full mindset change. So,
well, that's something you've just educated me there now, because I used to think when, you know, you'd see someone playing chess and you'd hear checkmate, I used to think, oh, that's a game over. It's just a fancy way of saying I won.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually realise that you could continue on, but the game was over, but you could continue on making moves. And actually, you're right. I mean, Jesus, that's a life lesson right there. So the game is over, but these people are just kind of playing lip service, I suppose.
Yeah, they're just carrying on moving pieces around the board.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's still checkmate. No matter where they move the pieces, it's checkmate. And this is where we're at now. And it's how we transition from being followers and subservient to the system, or stepping up and like something I said today, you know, the people in the alternative media really need to get together and become politicians or become lawyers and install our people who know a lot more, far more than any lawyer, politician, prime minister or president ever knows. If you think they know more than we do, think again. They don't. They don't have a need to know, and they're not told.
Yeah,
you know,
and I do know, and this is something I was educated on today. There's a lot of fancy words. Just because somebody, you know, may come from a certain part of a city or a certain part of a town, speak with a certain accent and use big words, does not mean that they know more or they're more educated than anyone else on this planet.
No, well, it's highfalutin. We used to use that term in England, highfalutin.
Yeah.
And do they really understand it? I remember putting out the question on the show, do you understand what consciousness means? Because everyone else appears to use it, but do you understand what it is? And there's a realization, is too many times you have people using very eloquent words and all kinds of highfalutin words, when all it's doing is complicating. And what I like to do is put it down to the base level. So, you know, once you're using big highfalutin words, you're losing people because of the education system. You simplify it, because everything at the end of the day on this planet is simple. It's only man and Cabal that have made everything complex, where we can't understand legal things. We can't understand how the government works. We don't understand how banking works.
Yeah, and we're not meant to. We're not meant to.
And science is off the wall. You know, they spend years coming up with complex mathematical theories when all you have to do is think.
That's it. I mean, you know, sometimes it is that simple.
It is.
You don't need somebody with a degree and loads of facts and figures and, you know, equations on a board to figure stuff out. Sometimes use your noodle, you know, and if you figure it out yourself, and hey, you are a genius. But I just want to very quickly mention one of the words, Thomas, that I was given today, insouciance. That was mentioned. That was mentioned to me by my brother. My brother has subsequently he's had his own awakening now, and he's questioning everything at a far quicker pace than I ever did, I can assure you. But he gave me a word today when I hooked up with him, and he said insouciance. Check it out. Good. And I'll just tell you exactly what it is, but I think it's it could describe a lot of our politicians. What to say? It says it's a noun, and it says the quality of being insouciant, lack of care or concern, indifference. So there you go. All our politicians are insouciant.
I can think of more descriptive terms, more colourful language terms, but yeah, that fits rather well. You know, it's
it does indeed. Yeah.
The reality is they need to be educated.
Yeah.
And part of the group I'm involved with has been educating governments all around the world, has been educating Illuminati people all around the world that you know what, you've been lied to, left, right and centre, and we all have. And the reality is that it's a bigger fall for them, because they were promised titles, we were promised nothing. We expected nothing, so we only had something to gain. They've got something to lose. It's a big difference in the mindset. And once it reaches a fulcrum, it tips over very, very quickly. The signs are in the mainstream media that fulcrum has been reached. And that slippery slope that the Cabal and the control system were on is going to gain rapid pace in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, carry on.
Just sort of throw it about here for a second. But the whole Donald Trump thing, right? Okay, some people think he's a savior, and some people think he's a psychopath. So psychopath the savior, or savior the psychopath? I don't know. But and I know we mentioned this on OAM as well, and a few guests have had different opinions. But is he, in your opinion, from what you know, from your intel, is he just another pawn in this game of chess that I don't understand, or is he here with a different role? Do you think he is he here like just another puppet on the string, or is he going to make a change? Will he make a difference? Does he even have the power to do that?
Donald Trump is irrelevant in essence.
Yeah.
No more like Tony Blair or Theresa May or Vladimir Putin. They're irrelevant. It doesn't matter who you put in as the so-called leader of the country. What does matter is what I've been talking about for the last 4 years in Cosmic Voice and THI, is providing a platform for somebody to operate from in a better way. Now, Trump was paid to be a distraction in the party, which then would have left Hillary to win. That's what I know. Trump was a stooge because they knew he would fracture things. Because he's one of those people, some people love him, some people hate him. There's no neutral ground.
It's like Marmite, really, yeah.
Yeah. And so he was there to facilitate for Hillary to win when she was alive. And then it changed. Of course, she died in September, 2 months before the election, and they thought they could pull it off with a double and realised they couldn't. And then certain groups, all I will say, decided to intervene, not Russia. Certain American people decided to intervene and remove the bogus election machines that was going to cast a whole heap of votes for Hillary. And so suddenly those votes were evened out. The hope was there was, I always forget the third person that was involved, but she didn't get many votes. I think she was one of the Liberals or Green Party, but she was coming out and calling out the deep state and stuff like that at the time. it was clear she was never going to make the sufficient votes, and so the lesser of the two evils was put in place. And that man literally shat his pants on election night. And certain top brass had to go and reassure him, because he couldn't believe that he'd won, because he wasn't there to win. Now, what's took place since is platforms have been provided, and it doesn't really matter whether it's Donald Trump or Hillary. If you provide the platform where they're told to go this way and not the other way, then you have a movement. And that's where we stand with Trump. Trump knows who we are.
Yeah.
The Kingdom of Mana Group. He knows who we are. He knows what we're doing. He also knows that we're in control of the trust accounts. They all do. This is why we got the threats, which are still ongoing. So he now has an opportunity to become a hero, providing he follows the correct pattern. If he chooses to go off, then both sides will take him out. The other side are already trying to take him out. That's why there's two Trumps.
Okay. I wasn't aware there was two Trumps.
Yes, there's two Trumps. So, as it stands, this is why in the UN meeting, Trump babbled on about sovereignty and independent lands starting out of Asia. That's the Kingdom of Mana. He didn't mention it direct, but that's what he's talking about. And then the recent one in China, he said the same thing. So he knows who we are. He knows what we want to do. He knows how we want to go about things, and he knows how we want to change things for the benefit of the all, not the select few. Providing he sticks to that plan, Mr. Trump is going to become a world hero. So now his role has changed, where it's all about him and not about Hillary. And he's got the ego to carry it.
Yeah.
So
he certainly does.
That's the story of Trump. But it doesn't really matter whether it's Donald Trump or anybody else. Unless you provide a platform for good people or even bad people to change, to make the change, it's a waste of time. You could put you in as President or Prime Minister of Ireland, but if you've got a load of goons operating out of agencies telling you better do this or we're going to torture your family or kill them outright, it doesn't matter who's who. It's what, and that's why I keep saying I'm not a lover of Trump as a person, but he could go down in history as the man that made the changes. Now, again, he'll take the credit, but we mustn't forget all the people who have already lost their lives fighting for this freedom, and we'll lose more before it ends. But the ultimate goal is to change the way this planet operates, and that's where we're heading. And so Trump is operating. Not all of his things I agree with. I've covered that on the shows, and I'll call it as it is, because I'm not really interested in the individual. I'm more interested in the program of changing their program and installing a new way. And I hope that platform stays stable. Some have decided to jump off, but then many others have decided to step on board. And ultimately, it's what we're seeing now is a clash, not necessarily between good and bad. What we're seeing is a clash of bad and bad, and can they change to be good? That's what
I suppose only time will tell. But as I said to you, I mean, will this play out in our lifetime, or will you be handing the?
It's playing out now, isn't it?
I know it's playing out, but you know the way, like, let's say for argument's sake, a game of chess. I know games of chess can go on for a short period of time, or you can have a long game as well. And I'm just wondering, like, will Thomas Williams be passing the baton on to someone else who'll be running with this, or will it come full circle to fruition to the utopian society or world that we all dream of? Will it happen like before we're 6 feet under?
Yes.
That's good enough for me.
The full realization is going to take 40 years, as I understand it now. And that's because people go, oh, I'm going to be dead then. Well, I'll be dead then. But everything the foundations will be in place and the walls have gone up, and it's just a decoration then, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I used the analogy of building a house. If you're going to build it on quicksand, it's going to collapse. It has to be done right. We only get one chance at this. It's not like them, where they can carry on and play games with all kinds of fancy tech and potions and Kool-Aid and all that nonsense, where they can roll on and change time loops. We get one chance to fix this. And we will fix it. Make no mistake about it. To me, it's already fixed. And people go, my life's shit. You look at it, go and look at people in Africa, and then turn around and say your life's shit. You go and look at the homeless on the street corner. It's all about perspective. And each and every one of us has played a role in this change. Yes, some have more key roles, but it's irrelevant in the bigger picture. We can burble on shows week after week, but if you've got no listeners, you're just talking heads.
Mm-hmm.
And so the listeners are just as important as the information that's being put out, because they're the ones that have then got to go and be the teachers and relay the information that's contained within the show. So it's all part of our system, not their system.
Yeah, and it's again, I suppose we are the teachers to a degree, but we're then trying to inspire other people to become the teachers.
But this is what I was saying. We've got to step into their roles. The Cabal or the Illuminati have failed in a short period of time. After the Draco left, they thought they were taking over. That's why it ended up from the Illuminati went into the 5 factions, and then they thought, we'll fight each other now, and we'll be the lead faction. It's backward thinking. If they'd have stayed as one, then we would have an even bigger fight in our hands. But now they're taking each other out. Saudi Arabia is part of a faction war. Yes, we're getting benefits from it, and I've said this all along, but it is part of a faction war. And eventually they'll eat themselves. And yeah, no problem. I realise we've kind of run over a bit. They're eating themselves. But the biggest work is after their fall, because then we have to be responsible for the real changes. Because if you carry on thinking the same way as them, competing against each other, not caring and not sharing, we're going to replicate what they did to us.
That's it. And it'll be history, as I say, history will just be repeating itself.
Yeah.
But we have to stand up, we have to be counted, we all have to do it. As we said earlier, there are no saviours, only us. That's it. So we need to just
There's something before I get your final thing on there. Something I was thinking about before, and something maybe both of you to consider. I've covered some aspects of it. There's a lot more about the real history of Ireland. I mentioned Ireland, the land of the pharaohs.
Yeah.
Would you see a potential role in your show for to learn the real history of Ireland and deliver it to the people of Ireland? And maybe do a segment in each show before or after your guests?
I can say, obviously we would have to have an off-air chat about it, yourself, myself, and Alan.
No, I'm not talking not about involving me. I'm talking about you and Alan. Maybe. Because you're both Irish. I'm not Irish, even though Scouse is riddled with Irish people, so. Yeah. But it's something that maybe.
If it was something, Thomas, if it was something that was going to, well, look, you know as well as I do, you can have some information that's based on history, and you can give it to people, and it could be completely 360 degrees polar opposite to what they've learned in the history books, the whole school system. And if you're given that information, if it would encourage people to stop and question stuff and say, well, hang on, if this was a line that we were fed back then, and this is the real truth, why were we fed the line? What bearing does that have on events today? If there was a correlation, then yeah, I mean that would be something that could possibly help to even the waking up process. But I mean, if it was something that you're going to say, and someone did, they told us that, the chap's name, I can't even remember now, that was involved in the 1916 rising over here. They said that, and everyone kind of thought he was a good guy working for this particular side, and then it was discovered, no, he wasn't. He was a bad guy, and he was working for the other side. If it was just
something like the Battle of the Boyne, isn't it? That wasn't England. Although England paid for it, make no mistake about it, but it was the Dutch, the Dutch king and his troops that stormtrooped in Ireland in the Battle of the Boyne. William of Orange, House of Orange, ING, International Netherlands Group. It's the same people. And, that type of history, where the Irish people then realise, well, hang on a minute, we've been treating Protestants badly, and Protestants have been treating us badly. But the reality is, we're blaming this when it was actually this. Let's not learn.
Look, I'm sure the whole thing is.
Yeah, let's not learn his story. Let's learn our stories.
Yeah.
We have to change history and change it to our story. That's the way to go forward.
No, I mean it will be interesting to know the truth, but if it's not going to change the future, then I don't know kind of what's the point. But if it gets people thinking and it does have an impact, well then I'm all for it. I mean, this whole thing in relation to Protestant versus Catholic, when you think about it, you go and you speak to someone, let's say for argument's sake, someone off world from a different planet, and they come down and they go, what's going on with those two groups of people there? And you go, oh, it's about religion. That's a hot topic, and they believe this and the other side believe that. When you look at it, I suppose from a different perspective, it all looks mad.
Stupid.
They're fighting, and you kind of go, why are they fighting? Well, because they could probably live in peace and harmony. However, someone just somewhere decided, let's have a bit of fun with these people, throw something in there to just get them fighting, and then sit back and watch the whole thing escalate.
Yeah.
The
reality is we should all become Protestants. Not the religion, because Protestantism is not a religion, it never was. It's a Protestant group. And one that's that history, or that goes from history to our story, then it changes everything, particularly in the country of Ireland. And then you find out some of the biblical people were from Ireland, and some of the queens are buried in Ireland that shouldn't have been in Ireland because they came from the Middle East, apparently, which is all BS.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
There is so much we don't know.
Final summing up for you. Something you'd like to say before you go and put the details of your show out as well?
Okay, well, what I'll just say, anyone who's listening, oymradio.com is our website for our show. We're on Sunday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. GMT. I'm not sure exactly what that translates to in Central European time or in your time there. But it's GMT anyway. All the podcasts are on the website, so you can kind of pick and choose whatever podcast you want to hear. There's lots of great information. There's a lovely caricature of myself and Alan, and that's it. Everything's there. And OYM, just to interject a bit, OYM is on at 7 p.m., 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 5 p.m. for the Pacific. So that gives you an idea for the listeners in America. So thanks for that.
2 p.m. for Eastern and 5 p.m. for the Pacific.
Okay.
Final thoughts?
My final thoughts, Thomas, are I want to say thank you very much to you for asking me just to come on for the time that we've had and just shoot the breeze. I know we've had you on OAM loads of times, but I know Alan kind of touches base. I've never actually had a one-on-one, just kind of a chat with you, and I have to say it's been most enjoyable. Thank you very much for asking me on, and love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, well, Alan calls, so it's not stopping you calling as well.
Okay.
Anytime.
Well, thanks very much.
Right. I hope you enjoyed that show. I know that it's getting late in Ireland. It's 11 o'clock. And Alan's got a busy work day tomorrow, like we all have. Well, many of us have. And I hope you gained something out of it. There was a lot in there, even though it was a shorter show because of time restraints. And take on board. But the main thing, Alan and Stephen have both pushed the people forward. And they have, both of those that have been on the last 2 weeks have had a massive impact. Far more than they realise. I know I have Alan coming on and, we're not doing this, not doing that. And we all feel that way. Not just this radio show hosts, but they're also the listeners. And remember, they have a life as well. A lot of people forget that. They're busy lads in many ways. So thank you very much, Stephen, George, for coming on today. And thanks for OYM for what they do. As for us, we'll be back next Thursday with the so-called normal show. If any show is particularly normal these days. And then next Saturday, not Sunday next week, next Saturday, because of time restraints, we go from Ireland across to Holland. And we'll have Alistair on an evening with Thomas, which will be at 2 p.m. Saturday afternoon. So look forward for that. Right, I'm going to leave you with Stephen's final song for tonight, and it's kind of fitting. This has been an evening with Thomas. My name's Thomas Williams,